Oi, no flying in here! I have a hard enough time keeping the floor clean. I'm not about to do the ceiling too.
Oh, come on! That rule is as dumb as Rollercoaster of Friendship. Besides, I drafted this place.
Hey, wait. Did you say Rollercoaster of Friendship is dumb?
Well, I can tell you that it's dumber than about 70% of the fan fiction of MLP, for sure.
Well, for one, I write fan fiction, but I also agree with you on the special. But two, I was thinking of giving it a review myself. Except for that, I would need enough booze to kill Barney from The Simpsons, or possibly another soul.
No. Just no.
Oh, come on. Can't you try feeding on cynicism?
Fine. Now that I finished consuming everyone, there's nothing left. Not that there was much to begin with. What's with all the lights? Do you want to blind and burn me? I'm not a vampire, you know.
No, not technically, but whatever. Today we're going to delve into what I think is the weakest entry in the Equestria Girls series since, well, its debut in 2013.
Oh, come on, it sucks, and you know it.
Okay, we're not actually going to start off with the actual opening of Vignette's phone becoming possessed. We'll get into her later.
Wow, a casual rape is not my style. I prefer to just consume creatures, but you do you.
I'm starting off with the first problem I have with Rollercoaster of Friendship. Rarity and Applejack's friendship.
Oh, don't beat around the dead horse, Lefty. If you have a problem, smack that horse right in the middle.
Well, if you want me to be cynical, I like Applejack and Rarity's characters so much in the main show. But where in the hell does this "we're the best of friends" attitude come from? Yes, I know they're friends. It was very well established since the first Equestria Girls movie, but why all of a sudden are these two acting like they're better friends with each other than they are with the other members of the Humane Seven? In all the specials and all the movies of the past half-decade, we never got even a hint that they were closer friends with each other than with the others of the group. I suppose in Legend of Everfree we had Rarity make a specific outfit for AJ and the latter character liked it, but one little instance such as that isn't much at all. I hate to say it, but this comes so far out of left field that it feels like fan service to Rarajack shippers.
Well, hey, guess you can be glad that this is not an anime. Then they would have gone full-on crazy sexta pose with this shit.
Wait, so it could have been more contrived? Good God. Now, if Sunset and Sidetwi were acting like this, I would totally buy it right out of the gate given how close they've been since Sunset helped Sidetwi overcome Midnight Sparkle and Friendship games. They've actually had considerable one-on-one time to develop a super close friendship like that. With AJ and Rarity, this pops up out of thin air and really shows in this special because of how unnatural and forced it feels that AJ is suddenly extremely jealous that Rarity has a new friend. They literally have to be forced together like this with lazy writing and cheap details for them to be the best of friends. I spoke to Nick Conflone at BronyCon 2018, the writer of this special, and he said it wasn't supposed to be intended for Rarity and AJ to act like this, and that the animators were the ones who added in the blushes post-editing, proving even more that this was contrived without much thought.
Wait, sunlight? Shipping's confusing and scary.
Yeah, it can be. Everything has a dark side. All I'll add is if this closer friendship was actually given time to build up, like Sunset and Sidetwi, instead of jarringly starting a special with them acting like this, I would concede that it was given proper development. I don't mind certain members of the main cast being closer friends with other certain members than the others if done right. Imagine if Star Wars Episode 9 started out with Kylo Ren and General Hux leading the First Order in equal roles while respecting one another highly with no explanation. That's what this whole best of friends friendship with Rarity and Applejack feels like.
So while you were yammering on, I quickly dug through your stuff to find out what shipping really is, and do you have bleach anywhere around?
What? Come on, my stuff isn't that bad.
I think I need to wash my eyes.
Wuss.
Okay, so let's talk the way these ape movies, specials, and other abortions are made. So aside from the fact that these, things are just made to siphon out money from young parents' pockets, and to mask the lack of any depth as if it was going out of style. The writer or the team as a whole loaded up the Gatling guns with comedy attempts and proceeded to spray and pray as if the audience were cockroaches and they were the extreme exterminators. I'll be back with some comedy. And I noticed that in the first 5 minutes they attempt to deliver 15 jokes or humorous things. It's just an attempt at a joke or humor, one after the other. Nothing lands, and worst of all, it drowns out any good jokes there could be. This continues throughout the whole thing. I only noted 3 real moments where it did not include constant afterbirth-like humor attempts. I seriously wonder what was going on in the writer's room when this all was put together. Were they viciously fucking each other on the keyboard that this script was typed on?
Come on. There are some of the gags like the visual stuff that the writing team didn't really make.
Oh, okay, so not only writing staff was to be blamed. Animators and editors too need to be lynched for this atrocity against comedy.
Well, sadly, this scene with Pinky talking to Vignette about their band doesn't do the writers any favors.
We sing songs together!
Normally, I'd love a Pinky line like this, but here it feels like an anti-brony or someone with only a surface-level grasp on Pinky's character wrote this line. I get it, with the delivery it's supposed to be funny, but it comes off like a poorly satirized version of Pinkie Pie, as if they purposefully dumbed her down in this scene just to have that line. Which really annoys me because I love Pinky's comedy when they get it right, like in Rainbow Rocks.
So magical.
You know what would have fixed this Pinky joke? If she went over the top and yelled, "You've never heard of the Rainbooms?" Grabbed Rainbow's phone from her pocket and jammed it in Vignette's face. Then have Vignette finally connect the dots while Rainbow snatches her phone back from Pinky. At least that would have been more in Pinky's character. Could have been a nice playful jab at modern concert goers constantly recording rock concerts on their phones, and by having Vignette only remember the Rainbooms when there's a phone crammed in her face, which would have been a more subtle showcase of how obsessed she is with mobile platforms and social media. You know, that nice word subtle, which the moral of this special and the special itself clearly is not.
Oh, and when we come to Pinky...
100,000 followers? Focused consumer-centric demographic too? Does your curated content consistently aggregate across multiple platforms?
We sing songs together!
This and few other moments are clear example of how clueless the writing staff is about the characters that have been established even in this universe, and just using whatever means they can to butcher the dialogue for a cheap joke that lands as hard as the Asian dog joke in the pet cemetery during a funeral. You know it's horrible and even can branch off into insults and racism. Fantastic, right?
And she's my boss.
I told you not to use the B word.
B-word? You mean bitch?
That would imply she's interesting enough to be a bitch. Speaking of Vignette...
Okay, so why does the teen-oriented cartoons end up most brain-dead of all types? This also means that the villain is downright bland, simplistic, shallow, boring, lazy, and idiotic. Basically an embodiment of a flaming dumpster fire. No, wait, at least that's somewhat interesting to watch. Well, never mind that then.
Yeah, pretty much that. It's painfully obvious that the special was going for a lesson about the dangers of becoming obsessed with social media and internet fame, how it can detach you from the real world if you're not careful, and to remember your real friends right in front of you. And they did this by trying to use a satirized version of a millennial, which is fine, but Vignette was not only a really unimpressive character, but a bland villain to boot.
Frankly, I thought that the message was more to do with the simply not making friends and considering some rando internet weirdos that most likely are fapping to your picture feed to be your friends. I mean, look at this. Is this what you're telling your target audience that is popular?
Okay, who let a DA artist work on the special? Kidding aside, Vignette's still literally nothing but a lazy caricature of millennials without actually giving her any more character depth beyond that. All we get is she's obsessed with social media and trying to make things the way she wants them to be, and that's it. I mean, when South Park satirizes a group of people, they go all out for it. It works for them because not only is South Park's main shtick to satirize real life while MLP is meant to be more serious, but South Park amplifies what they're satirizing up to 11. They actually do something with it. With MLP, we can't just get a character who is just one thing and leave it at that. How about a reason why she's become a slave to her phone beyond just being a millennial? Seriously, what is her motivation for it? Why not give us hints about her past that made her like this? What if her parents didn't give her that much attention growing up, and that her becoming enthralled with virtual attention was her way of compensating? You know, give us a scene of Vignette ignoring a call from her parents with a disgusted remark. Something. Hell, that could easily tie into what she's missing. Real friends in real life right in front of her, which the Rainbooms could easily help her fulfill. Sadly, nope. All we get here is a brain-dead millennial obsessed with likes and comments, clicking away on her phone with nothing else interesting beyond those shallow character descriptions, who gets predictably taken down in a really anticlimactic way. But do you want to know what the saddest part about this is, Mai? Featherbangs was a more memorable antagonist than Vignette. He at least had a personality of the cocky ladies guy or smooth talker, yet he had a moment of character growth and depth at the end of Hard to Say Anything, where he admitted he didn't know what he was going to do about the three mares lusting for him, and he begged the CMC for help.
Oh, but speaking of Vignette, her otherworldly, magical, and probably moist crevice makes me just question the plot, the script, and the writer's ingenuity.
Oh, really? What else is wrong with her? It doesn't smell like fish, does it?
Oh, that hole has some other issues. It's attached to her for one, but what I'm referring to is the white room thing. Why? Why does the mystical magical horse world power send things to that exact place? Oh, wait. Just like the way the mystical magical horse force was sent to the phone, we get no answers. So if the script tells it does, like the sacred texts of Twilight Saga, none shall question it, right?
Actually, I do have to question it myself. Late into the special, Applejack is on the phone with the girls trying to track them down when she hears Sidetwice speaking from both her phone and the White Room. Now, how did the girls not hear all of the screaming people and loud rides from the outside of the room? They're smack dab in the middle of the amusement park. And even if you make the argument that the room is soundproof, why would it only be soundproof from the inside? What is this room used for? And why is the door white too? Just so they wouldn't see there was a way out? Seems like a really massive plot convenience to me. And yes, it's obvious that it was all meant for a joke, what with Rainbow pointing out the salad, Sunset getting frustrated that they could open the door the whole time, and Microchips being weirded out about the laws of physics being violated. But despite those honestly funny jokes, the whole revelation with the room takes me right out of the special and destroys all of my suspension of disbelief. This is something that requires an explanation. With Juniper's mirror, it's easy to ascertain that it was infected with equestrian magic, and it was attached to Juniper's selfishness and insecurities and playing into her vanity by transporting things she didn't like by command into the mirror's dimension. No, not that one. And as for the mirror and the Crystal Empire, they were already in a world full of magic with time travel spells. Traveling to other worlds didn't seem too far-fetched, and the way it was presented was fairly straightforward. It makes sense, and again, takes them to a whole other world and not just some random white room just because. If the girls were truly teleported into Vignette's phone, it'd be easy to buy and work within the legitimacy of the Equestria Girls world, but just having it send them and a salad to some random room in the theme park is just way too vague and kind of a convenient excuse to get everyone out of the way, but in the same area.
Why did the horse force plague Vignette's phone? The plot told it to do so. Why did the magics send things to the White Room? The plot told it to do so. Why did the room not let sound in from the park? The plot told it to do so. So why our trapped protagonist did not shout for help? The plot told them to do so.
Also, why didn't AJ just use her super strength to destroy the walls after finding her friends just in case they fail to find Vignette in time? Hell, she could just rip the door off its hinges and use it to bash the walls apart like Captain America did to Iron Man's helmet and arc reactor. Or, since all the girls have their necklaces with them, they all could have just destroyed the room in seconds together, thus eliminating the harm Vignette could have caused.
The plot told her not to do so.
I'm sorry, but with how contrived all this with the room is, it's exactly why I don't feel any tension when they acknowledge what could happen if Vignette teleported a large amount of people into it. So many things fell into place so perfectly to move the plot along to this exact moment because the script needed AJ and Rarity's friends out of the way so Rarity can finally act like a thinking human being that I'm taken right out of the story. Forced Applejack jealousy, no one believing AJ, a random room in the park that is conveniently connected to Vignette's magically altered phone because the plot needed somewhere to put the characters once they caught on to Vignette, the character suddenly sticking up for AJ after letting her appear to be a liar only because it was their turn to be caught, a contrived AJ and Rarity fight, a guard suddenly allowing Applejack access to the security office because being a fun inspector turned out to be a real thing, the fact that conveniently no one can hear the outside world from the room, and none of their friends even try to escape the room. They just accept that they're trapped until Sideswipe decides it's time to act, only for AJ to just suddenly find them a second later anyway. And that's not even mentioning the zero explanation we're given for just why they were all teleported to that specific area. And just saying, well, because magic, doesn't cut it for me as an argument. Excusing it like that takes the magic out of the magic and turns it into a crutch to allow anything to happen as the plot demands it. I mean, they literally have to tell us why this room is bad. That's not a good sign that you have to spell out for us why we should feel anxious about this room's potential for harm, especially after it's jokingly revealed, haha, they could have gotten out at any time, only to turn around and say, oh, but this room could be dangerous. Of course, we know the reason why no one tried to find a way out right away. If Rainbow managed to get herself and Fluttershy out right after she was caught, Vignette's plans would have been thwarted and the special would have ended too soon, which is also a definite tension killer. You know what? For all its faults, at least the climax of the first movie had tension with Sunset threatening to destroy the only way back to Equestria. It's honestly not much, but at least I feel a little tension as I watch it instead of being bored out of my mind like with this special's climax. I'll take Sunset threatening to destroy the portal with a sledgehammer over all the girls powering up, only to have just Rarity zap Vignette's phone and then be the one to give Vignette the friendship speech. Despite the fact she didn't earn it, Applejack did. And at least Sunset had character growth in her climax. Vignette only looks annoyed when she's stopped, didn't seem to learn a damn thing, and she completely disappears from the rest of the special afterwards.
How about Rarity in this amazing special? She was used so much as a tool that the Home Depot is using her as a mascot.
I mean, I've seen people claim it was good to see characters other than Sunset get development, but really, what did Rarity do in this special? She's once again, shockingly, doing something that involves clothes and designing. Seriously, is this the only damn thing all the writers of Equestria Girls can come up with for her? Clothes and fashion are her core skills, obviously, but take a moment to think about Applejack. Farming and apples are a part of her character too, but how often do we see the writers plopping her onto her orchard for a plot or her talking about farming? Very, very little, because she has character beyond just farming and apples. Like her being the level-headed member of the Humane Seven that tries to keep everything together, or a handy carpenter and mechanic. Her trying to sell caramel apples involves that apple aspect, sure, but it's so rare that we see that from her character in Equestria Girls that it's really okay. With Rarity, Dance Magic tried to break her out of that shell, but a big part of that was still her being obsessed with making costumes. And while some of the shorts made her an actress for the school play, she was also tied down with being the costume designer. It's really sad that such a well-rounded and fleshed out character from the main show, a character who's dealt with issues like becoming frightened over possibly growing apart from her little sister and forever Philly, is constantly stuck with being a hollow shell who can't go beyond anything with fashion and clothes. You can literally just vaguely describe her as the fashionista, and that's pretty much 90% of her Equestria Girls character. Like my friend PatRex11 says, every time Equestria Girls Rarity opens her mouth, there's a 90% chance it'll only be about fashion.
Fascinating. It's like his mouth is a giant elongated anus and he's having a diarrhea. You know that you can easily just condense everything you say if you just stop and think a little?
Aw, but people said they like to hear my voice. Once again here, Rarity is also stuck doing something with costumes and designing while whining a lot, but with us seeing very little of her doing anything outside that box the writers trapped her in. Rarity doesn't even do anything of importance in the story until all of her friends are in danger. Up until then, she's just a plot device using her selfishness to push AJ to uncover Vignette's motives.
Why did no one believe AJ when she was spouting doom and evil coming from the Snapchat floozy?
Because the plot told them to do so. Seriously, Applejack is the element of honesty. Why don't you people believe her worries about Fluttershy?
Lighten up, Applejack. There's not always a villain with equestrian magic out to get us.
Way to jump to conclusions there, Sunset. How did you know that that was what Applejack was going to say? Does your friend's well-being not matter to you anymore? All of you are in a new place swarming with countless strangers. Fluttershy could be having a nervous breakdown somewhere or have gotten lost for all AJ knows at that point, but you just believe Applejack is worried over nothing? Gotcha. This just feels so wrong coming from the same character that was ready to maul Wallflower Blush for using the Memory Stone. Not to mention, the last half of the special rips off part 1 of Canterlot Wedding. A character knows something doesn't feel quite right, yet no one believes them, so they have to figure out what's going on alone.
Is Vignette zapping my friends with a magical phone? I know she was up to something.
Heck, we're not even throwing the possibility that it's in AJ's head like with Twilight in the Season 2 finale. The special shows us she's unquestionably right, so not only does that kill any tension, we're just waiting for her other friends to stop being idiots and take their truthful friends seriously. Look, I don't care that we see Vignette switching phones to cover her tracks. Applejack's friends should have taken her warnings of Vignette as seriously as possible with just a hint of skepticism, because Applejack would never in a million years lie about someone using equestrian magic. Notice how earlier Applejack never once mentions that she thinks magic is the reason behind Fluttershy's disappearance. It's only after she sees the security footage of Rainbow and Vignette that she goes with that serious of an accusation to her friends. Oh sure, they believe her eventually, but only because the plot needed Rarity and Applejack gone after a forced fight so the three idiots, I mean Pinky, Sidetwi, and Sunset, can be sucked into the White Room.
And you know what? She's not usually one to make things up. Like, ever.
Well, no shit.
So let me get this straight, Twilight. If you believe that about Applejack all this time, why did you not stand by her from the beginning, even if that would mean standing against Rarity? What makes it even worse for Rollercoaster of Friendship is, at least in Canterlot Wedding, Twilight's friends had a fair point that Cadence's behavior could be resulting from the stress of being the bride for the wedding, and making sure everything was perfect while there was an active threat of war going on. And they already saw how upset Twilight was for getting a last-minute invite to the wedding. Here, Applejack's friends just brush it off as if Fluttershy of all people being lost in a massive theme park is nothing, and conveniently don't believe her claims until it's time for them to be sucked into the White Room. Yeah, girls, don't trust your friend who makes it her mission in life to always be as honest as she can be. At least the security guard shoving AJ into the security office made him more useful than any of the other guards in Equestria. He actually did something, even if all it was an excuse to move the plot along.
But in the end,
we have to make this review
perfectly balanced, as whole thing should be.
with positives.
you actually found some positives?
Well, only a few, really. The side plot with Sunset and Sidetwi trying to beat Ring Toss was hilarious, as was Rainbow and Fluttershy's side plot of riding the roller coaster. Even if those subplots didn't even go anywhere, really.
It's not about the parakeet! Is it even safe to be this high up?
But whatever, those lines were great.
Yeah, I give you that. But isn't it interesting that the B and C plots of this train wreck were actually the only good ones?
Yes it is, because they easily could have been shorts all on their own and still would have been great. I especially like how Flim and Flam get some characterization beyond being con men by giving Sunset and Sidetwi a consolation prize. Out of sympathy or annoyance, it's still a great moment for them.
It's not about the parakeet!
And I still love that line.
Back on track, Mr. I know only how to drive in a circle.
And of course, the forced AJ and Rarity besties friendship. Just,
Oh, but hey, if this was the story about Rarity and AJ, what the fuck were the rest of the Vulcan disasters there for? Well, simple. Marketing! Cause Hasbro has to sell shit, right? And the special? Well, that just really felt like a standard 20-minute episode just stretched into a 40-minute special. With massive padding from horrible attempts at humor, jokes, and comedy that make me think of Teen Titans Go levels of stupidity. Actually, why am I even talking about this dumpster fire that's ready to burn down the hospital anymore? Oh, right. You told me that I could try feeding from cynicism. And you know what? I don't feel that hungry anymore. What I feel is my brain throbbing in pain and massive amounts of anger.
oh good, so it's not just me then. Anyway, that's all we have for Rollercoaster of Friendship. I'm Mr. Left Turn, and I want to thank MaiSky for helping me tackle this special today.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, this video was long enough as is. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.